Why isn't that?
I left the city, I've been browsing. Treading water that they drowning. My head on a swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings.
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at dynasty_dadff. And we're bringing it back old school. You know, what we're all about here is diagnosing your trades. And I brought on two guys. Obviously, Mung's here every week, and we got Jesse this week. So how are you guys doing tonight? Are you guys ready to chop up some trades?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Before we do that, Mung, we're going to talk about first-round draft picks today. I mean, we're going to talk about what you guys should be doing with your first-round picks, who are some trades that we can make, and we're going to diagnose all your trades. But I know you have some big things coming out, not just on the first round today, but your second-round release.
Yeah, a lot coming out at Fantrax. You can find my Superflex rookie rankings. Both rounds 1 and 2 are out now. I just updated my top 200 dynasty rankings for one quarterback and Superflex format, so those are also on Fantrax. Coming out on Friday, I've got a few big name sells that you might want to think about in dynasty. And then finally, you guys can always hit me up on Twitter with questions. You can find me at FFA_Mung. That's MENG.
So much going on. Jesse even just popped out of here, you know. Let's get Jesse back in. Jesse was so excited about all that, he had to step out for a second. All right, you guys can tell how excited I am to talk rookie picks because I kind of skipped some of the intro there. But once again, welcome back, Jesse, to the Smash Accept podcast.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me again. I love being on here, and I can't wait to talk rookies and picks and trades. This is the best episodes, man. I love these.
And I got a trade alert right now. I got to jump in right off. I mean, we're going to talk about all of our listener leagues, but Smash Accept is in the Ultimate Podcasters Dynasty League, in the second one, and I made some trades today. You know, I got excited. We got some new guys in there. Anthony from the Dynasty Drive. We got our boy Jeremy. His new podcast is in there, and we got a lot of great guys in there. But today's trade, I've been talking with Tim Torch from Under the Helmet for a couple of days now, and we started out with the 110 and Jalen Hurts for Alvin Kamara. You know, he really wanted a running back. He was trying to get in there, and I only have one quarterback. So then we got it down to Jalen Hurts and the 106. I said, not quite happening. So I got him all the way up to Jalen Hurts and the 104. So I talked to Anthony from the Dynasty Drive, which, by the way, those guys, you got to check them out. Great podcast. You know, they just joined in the league. I talked to him. I was like, yo, I really want Antonio Gibson. What do you want? So I end up taking that 104, flipping it for Gibson, and basically out of the deal, you know, getting Jalen Hurts and Antonio Gibson. Threw in Irv Smith, so he threw in Adam Thielen, but basically getting things rolling again, you know, trying to trade some of the picks, get that whole rookie fever going. Tonight's podcast is just going to be about you guys. You know, we have some great trades that you guys sent in. You know, I put a tweet out there and we had 25 trades get sent in. I mean, I know everybody's got that rookie fever. Everybody wants to buy them picks. And guys, when it comes to your first round picks, I mean, how do you like to look at things? We'll start with you, Jesse, first. You know, do you break things into tiers? How do you have your top 12? And why don't you talk to us a little bit about this rookie class before we jump in?
Yeah, so when I'm looking at this class, man, I like to break it down into tiers for sure. You know, I have my elite tier, and then I have basically everybody else who's in the tier that I feel comfortable drafting. And then after that spot, which is in non-Superflex, it's 10 for me, basically. And then Superflex, it gets a little bit bigger, maybe down to, 203-ish. But yeah, so and then basically I try to jump into that tier or hope that one of my guys fall out, if maybe someone likes, Elijah Moore a little bit and jumps up and grabs him. And then one of my guys fall to me at, 111. So that's the way I kind of look at it. You know, if I could jump into the top 10 this year, that's kind of where I want to be. It was kind of the same last year, actually. It was 10 guys I felt super comfortable with in non-Superflex. And, that's kind of where I go about it.
Yeah, and we're going to use Mung's rankings here a lot for today, but I want to jump into mine real quick before we do that. I agree with you. I think there's that elite tier, and I have 4 guys. I have Trevor Lawrence in his own tier. He's in a tier by himself because we can't if you don't have the 101 by now, you're not affording it. You know, it's going to cost you a boatload. But in tier 2, I have Fields, Harris, and whoever that San Francisco quarterback is. So for me, if that's Mac Jones, he's in there. If that's Trey Lance, he's in there. I put him in that second tier. But if it's not Fields, I have Harris as my number 2 overall player. So if Fields isn't the guy in San Francisco, you know, I'm moving Harris as my 102 overall. And that's my top 4 in there. Then I move on to that next tier, tier 3. And this is a little bit bigger tier, but this is the top 8. This is where I want to be. Right now, as far as Superflex, I want to be in the top 8 because you got Jamar Chase, you got Wilson, you got Lance, you got Jones, and you got Pitts. And I'm seeing Pitts in a lot of drafts. You know, people are mocking him all the way up to 3, 4 in Superflex, you know. So we're moving into that tier. And then tier 4 is no slouch either. I mean, you got Etienne and Javonte Williams. You got Smith and you got Waddle, you know. So that top 12 is pretty nice. I'm really trying to get into that top 8. And if not, I'm going to start shopping and see where we're at. But don't do that until you're on the clock. I see so many people, you know, we have 25 trades here. You guys know we've been saying it on Smash Accept for the last 2 years. That pick will not be worth more than when you're on the clock. So if you're trading it ahead of time, you're potentially losing out on some value. Mung, why don't you talk to us about your top 12 here, break it into your tiers a little bit, and then we'll jump right into these trades.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm with you in that the top 8 for me are kind of the premier picks in this class, and that includes the 5 quarterbacks and then Chase, Harris, and Pitts of the non-quarterbacks. Although the more that I look at the Alabama games, the more I'm tempted to put Jalen Waddle into that tier. So that top 8 or 9 picks, I think, is probably where you want to be in this class. As for where, you know, those players specifically fall in that top 8 or 9, I think landing spot is still going to shift those guys around quite a bit. But unlike you, I have whoever goes to San Francisco locked in as my number 2 pick in Superflex.
Yeah, I'm just not a huge Mac Jones guy, but I mean, I get it. I know. And you have him as your number 2. And I there's too many rumors out there to not think that's an option. You know, I love Fields. I'm not a huge Mac Jones guy. But like we all kind of agree that there's that top 8, and then there's the running backs kind of mixing in there. But for me, one thing I want to talk about is when you get to that end of that first round, what I like to do, and I do this every single year, is if I have 110, 111, 112, and I'm not sold on a guy, you end up trading for that 20. Now, right now, we're talking about a 2022 first and some juice, you know, and I did that a bunch of times last year where I had the 111, the 112, and I traded it for a 2021 first plus a player, you know, so we're getting a guy that you really believe in, plus you get a chance to possibly move up, and you have a 1 in 12 chance. You have a much better chance of moving up out of that, you know, 10, 11, 12 range. Jesse, do you have any kind of tricks of the trade when you're talking about, you know, moving around in the draft, trying to move into that certain area? We're all kind of in agreement. We want to be in that top 8 or that top 10. When you get to 11 and 12, where it gets a little bit dicier, do you usually try to shop on the clock, or how do you do things?
Yeah, so I typically will either move back, or I like to move up. I really don't like to sit there. Like you said, man, I'm not so much a fan of movement out of the draft per se. Maybe I like to try to hit like a more established player. Like, you know, I like Laviska Shenault. I'm sure you guys all know that by now. You know, he's a guy that I kind of will target maybe at that spot. You know, T. Higgins is another guy. Maybe you can target, you know, people a little lower on him, you know, so you could target some maybe, you know, established players and then, you know, do that. But what I do love to do is, man, I love that like meaty, like early second round. I love to jump into that spot. Like I trade a bunch of my thirds, some late seconds, and I like to jump up and grab, you know, whoever kind of fell out, you know, out of that top, you know, 12, 13, 14 picks. That I love being aggressive in the middle second round. I think you can find really good value because guys tend to drop, and you know sometimes that happens, man. But you know, like I said though, if I'm in like one,
yeah, no, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, yeah, the same thing, man. If I'm in like 111 and I don't see anybody there, I'll try to move back or just trade it for an establisher that I kind of like.
Yeah. And you're right. That second round gets juicy. I mean, last year, the second round, we were taking Antonio Gibson, and I saw Justin Jefferson sometimes fall into that second round, and just so many guys where you couldn't go wrong. In this year's class, if you're not believing in those guys, I mean, we see Rondale Moore and Bateman and a lot of those guys falling into that second round. this could be another great class to load up on some wide receivers in the second round. Not really going to get any running backs, and that's why I see most of these trades is people trying to trade in and get their running backs. So let's jump right into the first trade here, sent in by Nick Osborne at Nick Oz, OSB 969-70684. I think that's his phone number. Give him a call. But he gave up the 111 and a 22 first for Sam Darnold and Chase Edmonds. Now, he says he already has the 102, the 103, and the 107. Mung, I'm going to jump into you. You and I have been talking about, buying Sam Darnold. We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast. I've been seeing trades, and I've been comfortable in that 203 to 205 range. Right now, he bought Edmonds and Sam Darnold. We'll just say he sent it in before the James Conner deal. So let's say before that happens. What do you think of this trade?
Yeah, and as we're going through these trades tonight, I'm going to try and hit them real quick so we get in as many as possible. But before we do that, I just want to say that you guys know your league mates best, right? I know for a fact in some of my leagues that Jalen Waddle is going to be one of the top wide receivers taken because I know a couple GMs who really value 40 times. I know other drafts, guys are going to take Etienne and Javonte Williams over any of the wide receivers because that's just how they draft. So as we're going through trade advice here, keep in mind that you guys know best your league. So if you say, hey, I know this guy's going to be available at 1.5, that's why I'm trading for it, go for it. All that being said, I think this is a bit of an overpay. 111 is about right for Darnold, given his upside. But, even prior to the James Conner signing, I think I said on the last show that I expected them to take Gurley or Conner based on them taking a chance on AJ Green. And that's exactly what happened. So, a first was too much for Edmonds. I know I said that I would pay a first if they didn't sign anyone, but the expectation was that they always would. So, get your guys, but I think this was definitely an overpay on his part.
Yeah, I mean, he adds in here that he also has the 102, 103, and 107. Maybe it was, take some firepower and go up there and get Trevor Lawrence, or move that 22 first in the 107 to move that way up a little bit further. I agree. It's a little bit of an overpay. Obviously, this happened before the trade, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on this one. But if you want to get Sam Darnold, I'm seeing guys. Yeah, I'm personally comfortable in that 203 range. Something early second. Jesse, are you willing to pay a first for Sam Darnold, or are we kind of overpaying here a little bit in that range? I mean, what are you comfortable with?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I actually offered a 203 for him. That's where I felt comfortable. I had 201. I didn't love giving up 201 for him. So 203 was kind of where I am. But if you really need a quarterback and you're not going to maybe get the top 5 in this class, so I could see you moving that 201, like Mung had said, you know your roster, your league mates. So if you know that one of the quarterbacks is going to fall to maybe 201, then keep it. If you like, Mac Jones or, Trey Lance, whatever, in that 201 spot. But if you think that you can't and you need the quarterback, then I'm okay with paying that. There's no problem with that. It's quarterbacks. You kind of have to pay for them,
How about a 22 first? Because another one of our listeners at the FFB Tech, he sent in that he got Sam Darnold. Now he sent in like 5 trades, but he got Sam Darnold for a late 22 first. And I believe I'm in on that. I feel like that's something you can replace a lot easier.
Yeah, I like that trade a lot more. I'm more willing to move those 22 picks because, like you said, you can kind of regather them. Like the million ways you can re-up on a 22 first. So yeah, I'm cool with that trade because you want to try to win the league now. You know what I mean? Like that is part of dynasty is you want to win.
Exactly. Another fan of the show, and he sent in a lot of different trades. It's Alex O at Alex O_FF. He sends in a trade where he receives Ronald Jones, the 104, the 304, and the 411 for Russell Wilson, Sony Michel. Is Sony Michel still in the league? No. And the 307. So let's take out the 304 and the 307. Basically, what we're looking at here is the 104 and Ronald Jones for Russell Wilson. Mung, we're talking about a super flex league here. Are you willing to give up on Russell Wilson at the 104 at this point? He didn't put direction here. The first he traded to get the 108 for Jalen Reagor, which I think is a good cash out, especially because Reagor hasn't really showed what he can do yet. But then he goes and he gets the 104 for Russell Wilson. Talk to me a little bit about that trade.
Yeah, I definitely think that's fairly cheap for Wilson. And this is coming from a guy who has concerns about that Seahawks offense becoming more run heavy, the possibility or the risk of Wilson getting traded in 2022. But, Ronald Jones, they re signed Leonard Fournette, they added Giovanni Bernard. I don't see him playing an impact unless there are some injuries in that backfield. So I think this is pretty cheap for Wilson. And what was the Rager deal you said?
Rager and 108.
Yeah, I mean, that one pains me a little bit because you guys know how high I was on Rager coming into last year. But, some really smart guys. I know JJ Zacharyson over at Number Fire, Drew DF Bean Counter. They've both talked about rookies who disappoint in their first years in the league and, just lowering the odds for their long term success. So, given who you can get at 108, I would sell Rager for that pick.
When it comes to super flex trades, just a rule that I've always gone by is if you're giving up a quarterback, you get a quarterback. So in this particular trade, Alex, we give up Russell Wilson, you get the 104, which you might draft a quarterback at 104, and that's fine. But in a deal like this, I'm targeting a guy like Sam Darnold, like Daniel Jones, like another quarterback with that 104. So you have two chances here at it. That way you get yourself, we all agree that top 4 in this class is fantastic. But if you're giving up Russell Wilson, get another quarterback in advance. Are there any other quarterbacks you guys are really targeting in that range? Daniel Jones was a guy that Ryan McDowell and I were talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it was like he broke our hearts, but there's a little bit of upside there with some of the weapons. Are there some young quarterbacks that might be forgotten that you guys might be buying on the cheap?
Yeah, I mean, Gardner Minshew may get traded at some point this offseason. So I think he's a guy that you can get pretty cheap right now for, as a throw in or maybe a 3rd round pick. And you guys know I'm a little bit lower on Fitzpatrick than the rest of the dynasty community, it seems, in Washington. I do think that we may see Taylor Heineke get a shot, assuming they don't draft anyone. So those are kind of fringe guys that you can get for basically nothing who may luck into a starting gig, even for just a few weeks.
Jesse, are there any quarterbacks that you're out there targeting and the guy that you're trying to buy on the cheap when you're needing that super flex quarterback?
I had done that early. I had targeted Hurts before the Wentz deal. But Wentz is a guy I would even try to target. I kind of like maybe taking a risk on him at maybe 109, 110, 111, whatever it is. I know you're kind of talking maybe a lower tier, but Wentz is maybe a guy that can have a nice little bounce back. He's getting back with his OC. I'm sorry, not his OC, but they're bringing in the Chargers OC or quarterback coach. So I think maybe that can help him out. And Indy does a really good job of building around their quarterback a little bit. So hopefully maybe we can get a nice bounce back from him. But Jalen Hurts was the guy that I was kind of targeting a lot. And maybe throw a little bit of cheap love at Jordan Love, man. Maybe you can kind of get him on the cheap. I don't know.
There you go.
Maybe something.
I like it. Now our next trade is the kind of trade I love. This is the one I really want to break down here. Sent in by Arabian Sniper. It's a 10-team, 2-quarterback league. So a little bit more value, obviously, on the quarterbacks. He said the team's an absolute wagon. I'm not really down with the kids' lingo. I don't know what a wagon is, but it sounds like it's good. They're just missing an elite quarterback. So he trades the 108 and the 109, and he wrote, had to get Fields. Now, you guys know I have Fields at that 2 spot, especially if he goes to San Francisco. Even if Mac Jones goes there to San Francisco, we're looking at the 108 and the 109, and in your rankings, we're looking at Waddle and Lance. Would you give up Waddle and Lance to get Mac Jones or Justin Fields at that 102 spot if your team's a wagon and you need that quarterback?
Probably not. I think that's a little bit of an overpay, but given that we did get context for this deal that their team is looking pretty good, if that's your guy, then I have no issue with it. I don't think it's an egregious overpay by any means.
Yeah, I mean, if Justin Fields goes to San Francisco, I know we're not going to do this debate back and forth between Fields and Jones too much, but if Justin Fields goes to San Francisco, I'm making this deal. If my team's Jesse, have you ever heard of a wagon? Is that? I'm in Amish country. It's a little bit more of a horse and buggy system, but if your team is just missing that second quarterback, right? And that's going to put you over the top. Are you willing to give 108 and 109, or does that feel a little bit pricey to you?
See, I am, but I don't know if Fields. Not that I don't love Fields. I do. I think he's either QB2 or 3. whichever way you kind of put it with Wilson. I'm not huge on Mac Jones, but you can't deny if he goes to the 49ers. But if you're a second quarterback away, I'm not sure you're going to go with a rookie quarterback as your second quarterback to be away from. I think maybe you should target somebody, like Russell Wilson, somebody who can help you win right this second if you're trying to win the league now. I mean, I'm not telling you not to do the trade because it's fairly, it's a little bit of overpay, but it's not much. But yeah, I think maybe you need to get another quarterback also because I don't know how much you can rely on Fields in year one to be your number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, it's tricky without seeing everything that's right there in front of you. But I'm bored with that. I mean, if your team is that good, instead of going after Fields, take the 108 and the 109, and with 2 good rookie picks, 108, 109, that's solid territory. We said we want to be in the top 10. You're looking at being able to buy all but about maybe 6 or 7 quarterbacks. There's some guys there where you might be able to take, at 108, Trey Lance might fall there. And at 109, you might be able to trade 109 for Carson Wentz. Now you have 2 shots at it. You get Carson Wentz, and then you got Trey Lance, who, I think is going to have big things in the NFL. But, let's get into one where we totally agree with our listener, right? We haven't gotten there yet. The next one is sending from Andrew's self-depreciating Shuba. That's a very interesting Twitter handle. He just did this one this morning. He said he moved back 4 spots, gave up a 22-second to get Brandon Ayuk. So he gets Brandon Ayuk and the 109 for a 22-second and the 105. Jesse, I'm going to let you start on this one. We've talked about Ayuk a lot on the podcast, but we're moving from 105 to 109. So he's moving back 4 spots, and then he's getting a wide receiver like Brandon Ayuk for a second-round pick just to move back those spots.
Yeah, you can't hate it, man. You're getting Ayuk. I don't love moving back, but I mean, it's 4 spots, man. You're gonna sit in that Bateman, Waddle, Smith, Etienne. Sorry, his name drives me nuts. Range. I mean, you're gonna miss out on maybe Pitts, Fields. I mean, I'm good with the trade. It's fine, completely good. You're getting Ayuk, who's probably just as good, if not better, than the majority of the receivers in this class. So yeah, I'm cool with that. For sure.
Absolutely. We got to see a little bit from Ayuk, and these are the kind of deals sometimes moving back. I mean, we don't usually suggest doing that now, but if you moving back 4 spots and giving up a second-round pick to get a player like Brandon Ayuk, who really excelled last year. What do you think here, Mung? I mean, you're a resident guy on San Francisco. Obviously, Kittle's coming back, so that's going to eat into Ayuk a little bit here. But I feel like this is a nice move to move back just 4 spots and pick up Brandon Ayuk.
Right, and I don't think it's a huge win in value or anything, but I do like this deal. There are guys at 5 who you probably aren't going to get at 9, especially if you're targeting a quarterback. But if you're good at that position, rookie draft picks, they're kind of a crapshoot no matter how good of a film or metric evaluator you are. So to pick up a surefire wide receiver 2 at the very least with upside in Ayuk, I would do that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, we don't always hit on these rookie picks. We've been having on some of the best people in the business, Matt Hicks and Angelo Analysis, and just fantastic people coming on to tell you guys about rookies. But the more you can hedge your bets, the better, right? So now he gets this opportunity here where he has Brandon Ayuk, who we've already seen, and he's getting the 109, and now that 105. He's got 2 shots to hit it instead of 1. And a lot of times that's what it's all about, is just hedging those bets. The next one sent in from @TBillsAA. He sent Mecole Hardman. Don't cry about it, Mung. It's Mecole Hardman. That hasn't happened yet. And the 111 in a super flex for Joe Mixon. Now, you guys have heard me rant and rave about Joe Mixon in the past. I had him as a top 5 running back last year. He was going to break out. But Joe Mixon's an RB1 when he's on the field. And anytime you get an opportunity to get an RB1 for a late first super flex pick, and Mecole Hardman, who at this point, has not broken out yet. I know we like the talent. I'm advocating this kind of trade. If you can get Joe Mixon for a late first and a throw in, Joe Mixon has the elite capabilities to take care of business at the running back position. Mung, talk to me a little bit. I know you're not huge fan of Joe Mixon, but is this a trade that you're willing to make? In your rankings, this would be Rashad Bateman and Mecole Hardman. Are those 2 wide receivers worth what Joe Mixon is in a league where, I mean, obviously running backs are a lot more scarce than the wide receivers?
Absolutely. I think this is actually a hashtag smash accept. I've really
Ooh.
warmed on Mixon this past offseason. I did a deep dive on him. You guys can find that article at Fantrax from maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I like Mixon a lot in this class. I'm not sure that there is another workhorse running back outside of Harris. So Mixon to me has more upside than any other running back outside of Harris.
Yeah, and I feel like Joe Mixon gets pushed aside so often. I mean, in all the drafts that we've done, Joe Mixon has fallen outside all of he's gone in that running back 15 to 17 range. And when he's on the field, when he's healthy, we got to look at the arrows pointing up. I mean, Joe Burrow's back. The offensive line, we have to believe they're going to improve on that because that's what it was. I mean, last year, if you look at things in the early part of the season, he was getting hit in the backfield. And then when you look a little bit closer, I mean, the guy can catch passes. Giovanni Bernard's out. The arrow's up for Joe Mixon. I'm buying Joe Mixon everywhere I can because no one's believing in the talent. And we saw him coming out of college, even back when I was with Dynasty Refinery, where I was screaming about Joe Mixon all the time. I mean, he could easily have a top 6 running back season, and I would not bat an eye at that. I see that in the realm of possibilities. But when he's on the field, it's top 12 to 15 no matter what. Moving on to our next trade, sent in from Jonathan Pryor at JipJip79. And his team is a 12-team Superflex and a +1 tight end PPR. So we're looking at a 2.0 PPR, which that is big time when you're talking about tight end premium. You know, a lot of people say they're in tight end premium. If it's 1.5, I don't care. It's not really a tight end premium. It doesn't change that much for things aside from your guys like Kittle and Kelsey. But when it's 2 points per reception, that's a game changer. You know, that definitely moves a guy like Kyle Pitts way up. That moves all your tight ends up. And it's a start 10 league. He receives Travis Kelsey in the 109 or the 107 for David Njoku, the 103 and the 112. And I got to say, this is a smash accept. I mean, this is just, you're getting Travis Kelsey in the 107 for the 103 and the 112 and David Njoku. I mean, Jesse, can this be a better trade?
I mean, it was massive overpay on that kid. He crushed it with Kelsey in 107. That guy must have known Pitts was going to fall to him, and that I can only imagine that being the only reason why he would do that, because it's a pretty big overpay, especially being a 2-point reception. That's what you said, right? Yeah. 2 points.
Oh, no, he got it. Got Kelsey in the 107. I mean, that's a massive overpay. He had to have.
Massive.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he crushed that deal.
And I'm seeing this happen a lot, and I'm getting questions in these 2-point or 1.7 tight end premium. They're like, should I trade up to get into that 103 range and get Kyle Pitts? And that's not a problem. But you look at Travis Kelsey, you can't say you're going to trade Travis Kelsey to get Kyle Pitts unless you're, Angelo has said he's in that Canton type, range. And I know Mung is huge on him, but every year, you can get whoever the tight end one is for that 102, 103 range. I mean, right now you could buy Kittle for the 103, in this case, go ahead.
No, I'll tell you a trade I did last year in a 1 QB league. Now, it's not tight end premium or anything, but this was after the season. So I traded Kelsey and I received A.J. Brown and a 3rd-round pick who I turned into Laviska Shenault. So it ended up being Shenault and A.J. Brown for Kelsey. And to me, that's a great deal in a in tight end, not a tight end premium league. But those are the type of moves you can make for Kelsey, man. I don't, this guy getting 103 and 112, I mean, that ain't it for me. If you're going to move Kelsey, man, you got to get that overpay for him. Our listener crushed it. Absolutely crushed.
He killed it. And you brought up A.J. Brown, which gets me excited. I'm always, we talk about A.J. Brown. That's that mandatory thing in here. And I talked about John's mandatory Antonio Gibson. He's not even here to celebrate. So we'll celebrate big time on that A.J. Brown. Mung, where are you willing to draft? Let's say it's 2-point tight end premium. So you 2 points per reception. How high are you willing to take Kyle Pitts? I mean, we're assuming he's taking him here at 3. Are you willing to go that high, or are you willing to go higher?
Yeah, I think 3 is about right in those tight end premium formats, because the upside is certainly there with Pitts, and we know that this is a little bit different in this era of the NFL, where we know that whoever's going to be taking Pitts in the NFL draft, they have a plan to use him as a receiver. They're not drafting him to be a blocker here. So I think 1.03 is about right in super flex. In 2 PPR tight end premium, I don't think it's crazy to go with Pitts at 101. I don't know if it's a move that I would necessarily make. I don't actually personally play in such a high tight end premium format, but I don't think it's crazy.
We're always trying to make those tight ends so much more valuable, you know what I mean? But Kyle Pitts, if you guys can get him, he's going to be fantastic. You know, I'm seeing Miami potentially talking about taking him and lining up Pitts and Gesicki. I mean, can you imagine trying to stop that? I mean, they're both unstoppable players when it comes to safeties trying to guard him. So it's going to be exciting. The next one comes in from Evan Brown at FF Evan Evaluation. I can't even pronounce it, but he has a great one here. You know, he traded the 111 and Christian Kirk. Okay, so the 111, and that would be, again, Rashad Bateman area, Waddle, Smith, something in there, and Christian Kirk, who, you know, we were all excited. Maybe Christian Kirk gets an opportunity, and then they go and get A.J. Green, you know, and I feel like that pushes it back a little bit. For Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a 14-team, 1-quarterback league, if you can get Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a late first and a throw-in wide receiver, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is being dumped on quite a bit. And we've talked about this with several different guests. 14 teams, running backs get very difficult to come by. This is a smash accept, right, Mung?
100%. I don't know why exactly so many people are down on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I've talked about this a lot on Twitter. I've replied to a lot of trade polls. CEH was the number 13 running back in PPR formats prior to getting hurt in week 15. So he's like a high-end RB2 with RB1 upside. And to give up a late first, especially in 1 quarterback, where, you know, the quarterbacks of this rookie class aren't pushing down talent like Waddle or Smith or Bateman, this is definitely a smash accept.
Yeah, I mean, even in a super flex, I was looking at it. I didn't even see it says 1 quarterback league. That's even more of a smash accept. We got to look at this. I mean, every year there's that post-hype sleeper, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire was moved all the way up to RB3, RB4 status. I mean, people were willing to jump him over Zeke, jump him over a lot of running backs. They even, I would not even consider this, but put him over Jonathan Taylor in the rookie draft. And I saw that everywhere. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he finished as RB13. Like you said, that's a high-end RB2, and now we're just dismissing him because he wasn't the RB1 or the RB2, you know, and this is an opportunity to go out there and buy. How high up, let's say it's Superflex 12 team, how high up would you be willing to take him in this draft? So what would you trade for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Start with you, Mung, because I know this is your guy. I mean, you got to have him above ETN and Javonte Williams unless they land somewhere fantastic, right? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think Harris is the only one that I would consider taking over CH. So probably in that 1.6-ish range.
Yeah, I feel like that's the area, and you can get him for 1.8, 1.10. That area that Jesse and I have been talking about, where it's like on the fringe of what you want. Why not get a guy tied to that great Chiefs offense? Jesse, have you been a Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy? I do not own him aside from one team, and I got so excited I could draft him just so I could change my team name to the Prince of Edwards-Helaire. But you know, what do you have him on your rosters, and is this someone you're actively pursuing to get, as Mung and I are?
I don't have him. I think what ended up happening with him was he got corrected, right? Like he got so overdrafted based on the landing spot of Kansas City, and then he ended up just getting corrected because now he's fallen behind Akers, he's fallen behind Swift, he's fallen behind Jonathan Taylor, and maybe even Gibson. I mean, I would take Gibson over him personally. But that being said, I like him over basically every running back in this class that's not named Harris. Mung just said it. I think the 106, 107 spot is the sweet spot for him. And seeing that people are getting him for 111, I'm definitely going to target him now. I'm going to send out my late first for him, see if somebody will budge on it. Frustrated owner. I mean, dude, like you said, man, that was a smash accept, dude, all day on him. He just corrected himself. That was all that was just a correction.
Yeah, and while you were gone, we talked the same about a Joe Mixon deal where you're getting him at the 111 area. I mean, we almost got to look at this sometimes, and if you really need a running back, right? And neither ETN or Javonte Williams go to a landing spot that you're necessarily liking. Once you get past that 107 area, start targeting these guys. Look at the guy who might be frustrated with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Look at the guy that might be frustrated with Joe Mixon, and those guys have rookie fever, and then trade in there. And you might be able to get, Jesse's big on Laviska Shenault. You might be able to get Laviska Shenault and Joe Mixon for the 108, and move into those areas where you really start to take advantage of your rookie drafts. I mean, so many times people I talk to a lot of listeners. They're like, I have the 106. Who should I take? It's not that cut and dry. It shouldn't just be that's who I'm taking. It's get to your pick. Don't just jump in there and grab it, but put it on the board. Say, hey, I'm shopping this pick now. What are you guys willing to trade? And you could be surprised. I mean, we saw there at the 103 that somebody was willing to give up Travis Kelce in the 107, just to move all the way up to 103,
Right.
So shop it on the clock. Don't trade it now. Shop it on the clock and see what you guys can get. I mean, it'll blow your mind what sometimes people are willing to pay.
I actually traded my 110 in a 1 QB league for Joe Mixon. My team was a little bit running back needy. I had 102 also, and I want to take Chase in 102. I didn't want to be pigeonholed to a running back there. Not that I necessarily draft that way anyway, but the thought process of being pigeonholed at 102. So I moved 110 for Mixon. The Mixon owner was frustrated for sure, and I'm like, dude, I'll take him for 110. I mean, that's a risk I'm willing to take every time because I think you guys had said it earlier. These late first rounds are just dart throws anyway, but especially the later you get in the first round, they become more and more dart throws. So if you can get yourself an established running back who's in a good spot like Cincinnati, I think those are great deals to make, man. And like you said, man, trade these picks when they're on the clock. Trading them now depreciates the value. I know I traded it now, but I thought it was a really good, opportunity to, move him for Mixon, but
Yeah.
If you're going to, trade the pick for, whatever, wait for it to hit the clock.
Yeah. If you're not winning right out, don't do it. You can wait. And I had this, the guy was asking me, he's like, I have the 102, the 103, and the 104. I'm going to start making those trades now. I go, no, man, let the rookie fever build up. We didn't even have the draft. He's like, I want to trade the 104 for Josh Jacobs. I'm like, chill, just wait, see what happens. And you'll get more than Josh Jacobs for that 104. You're going to get Josh Jacobs plus, because then there's going to be, that player is going to be on a team now. And then the excitement gets even more up. Once you have a player, only certain teams like him, right? But you have an option at 103. We all like different players there at 103, so when you're on the clock, then multiple people want that. As soon as you pick it, then only a select few really want that same player, so it pigeonholes you quite a bit. The next one sent in from Ben C at the Extra Point FF. He receives the 102 Julio Jones and a 22 third for Zach Moss, Hollywood Brown, the 108 and the 208. Jesse, I'm going to let you jump on that one first. He's moving all the way up from the 108 to the 102 and then getting Julio Jones instead of Hollywood Brown and Zach Moss. What do you think? This is one quarterback.
I think he's showing off.
Yeah, he's showing off. You got to peacock, right? You got to be like, yo, look at this trade. By the way, look at
I think he's humble bragging. It's a great deal, man. You're getting Julio, you're getting 102, you're giving up 108, Zach Moss, 208. It's a great deal, man. You absolutely killed it, bro. I think that you killed it, but yeah.
Ben C did kill it, but Mung, what is the other guy looking for here? I mean, what's going on? I can't even begin to look at the process and be like, oh yeah, no, Hollywood Brown and Zach Moss and the 208 aren't worth Julio Jones. I want to give up the 108 for the 102.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story here is don't drink and trade. This is pretty much a free upgrade from the 108 to the 102 as I see it. So I agree with Jesse here. I think this is a big win.
And Ben, if we flip that trade there, I sincerely apologize, but I know you smashed it. All right, next one sent in from David Brown at ETL124FTG. Again, just throwing some letters out there. We had a 12-team Superflex tight end premium. He had the 101 for the 102, the 208, and a 22 first. All right, so let's play this out. Let's say I'm gonna go Mac Jones goes to the Niners. So are you willing to how much of a difference is there? I'll start with you, Jesse, between Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, 208 and a 22 first?
This one's tough. This one's a good one. I think Lawrence is worth 2 first and a 208. Oh man, this one is tough, man. This one goes by preference. Geez. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it, I guess. I would try to just get Justin Herbert, man. You could probably pay a lot less and get Herbert. these people, yeah, you're overpaying for Trevor Lawrence, and you really don't know what he is at this point. I mean, we all think he's going to be generational, but he hasn't played a single snap. So, try to get Murray. You can probably get Kyler Murray for less, honestly. I would just try to shop that package for a little bit better of a deal for, one of those quarterbacks that are in a tier above Trevor Lawrence personally. And you could probably get more back or give less. That's what I would do. I mean, if you did the trade, huh?
No, I like that because I like how you're thinking a little bit different instead of just what's right there in front of the face. I mean, we all had Trevor Lawrence as maybe like the QB7, QB8, and if Fields, goes to San Francisco, we had him in that QB 12 to 13 range. And if Mac Jones is there, he's got to be in the top 15 just because of San Francisco. But if you're giving up the 102 and a second and a first, yeah, you're right. You might be able to get Kyler Murray, and we've seen what he can do. I mean, we've seen what. And I know Mung's guy that he's been buying up everywhere, and he has all the way up as his 3rd overall ranked Superflex player. Get Dak Prescott, at less than that. Maybe give up the 102 and the second and keep the 208, And Mung, here's your chance to plug Dak Prescott. I saw you moved him all the way up to your QB2. It's time to go get him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love Prescott, but in terms of this deal, I think it's kind of getting crazy how valued Trevor Lawrence is. And I know that he's billed as this can't-miss prospect. And I do think that he has a pretty safe floor and a high ceiling. But at the same time, we simply don't know that, right? This is one of the deeper quarterback classes that we've seen in recent history. But when you go back to the last time that you had, 5 premier quarterbacks in a rookie class, that was 2018. And everybody loved Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield. And guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen dropped to that late first, early second even. People really hated Josh Allen. So it's really hard to project quarterback success, whether you're an NFL talent evaluator, whether you're a fantasy talent evaluator, excuse me. So to me, this is just way too much draft capital to give up for Lawrence. Even if he ends up hitting, I think this is just too much of a risk given the relative reward of who you're getting at 102.
The next trade sent in from Sean Clayton at Sean_Clayton 214. He must have heard what Jesse was saying because he gave up the 104, the 210, and the 22 first for Kyler Murray. And we've already talked about that. That's kind of what we were saying the other guy was doing. Is he giving up the 102, the 208, and the 22 first? He already did that before you even suggested it, Jesse. So our listeners are fantastic. They've been listening to the show for a while. The next one we're going to break down is Mike Proctor at Proctor ERMP. We're going to go with that. He sends, he receives the 101 and Darrell Henderson for Aaron Jones. We don't need to spend any time on this. You smashed the heck out of that. Either right. In this one, he didn't write Superflex or one quarterback, but if you're getting the 101 for Aaron Jones, you got to do that. You got to take that. I mean, every day. Seriously, even if it's just Najee Harris and resetting the clock a little bit. Next one sent from DJ Mags. That's Eric Mags. He sent out Julio for the 104 again. And then he also traded Henry for the 105. So, I mean, both of those scenarios, he sent Julio Jones for the 104, smash accept. But Henry for the 105. One quarterback league. Mung, talk to me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. I'm assuming that this is Derek, not Hunter Henry, but just FYI, it's always good to specify so we don't have to play these kind of guessing games because we have seen.
Yeah, if it's Hunter Henry, he killed it.
But, we've seen some crazy deals, so it's bad to just assume that we're going to know who you're talking about, right? Especially with more common last names. But anyway, end of that rant. Assuming it's Derek, I don't love it. Again, I think that Najee Harris is really the only true 3-down workhorse back in this class. So, you're looking and you're missing out on likely Chase, Harris, Pitts, whoever your wide receiver or running back 2 is. I don't love this deal at all.
Yeah, I mean, if I loved what he did with trading out Julio, but let's look at this. We don't know it, but if he's rebuilding, that's an okay type deal. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the 105 and we keep talking about him, but I mean, I'm trying to buy 105 and Laviska Shenault, or I'm trying to trade that 105 for, I'm trying to trade Derrick Henry for T. Higgins. I'm not trying to trade it for just a random first. I want a little bit on top. I want to get, several players in there. I want to try to package it up a little bit. Next one sent in from Salty Peppers. Salty Peppers FFL. He said, "Okay, Dad, here's one from mid-March." So Salty Peppers, he's calling me Dad. That works in there. He traded away Matthew Stafford, Josh Jacobs, the 111, and a couple of 7th and 8th round pick for Alvin Kamara. Now, Josh Jacobs, he's been getting, ever since Kenyon Drake's there, his value's fallen off a little bit. But he gives up Stafford, Jacobs, and the 111 for Kamara and the 3-1.
Yeah, so honestly, I don't want to sound like a mean person on the podcast, but when you guys send in trade questions, you really need to specify, because it doesn't say one quarterback or super flex, and that's huge in terms of figuring out Stafford versus Kamara's value. And then when you get
No, you're absolutely right. And we talk, and maybe we need to retrain our listeners. We always had that hashtag smash accept. You got to tell us how big the league is. Are you a contender? Are you rebuilding? Is this super flex? As many things as possible, because if this is a one quarterback league, Matthew Stafford just, it changes things. If this is a super flex league, it's got to be a smash accept on the Jacobs, Stafford, and the 111 side.
Well, and here's the other thing too. When you get into, 6th, 7th, 8th round picks, I don't know if you're talking about a rookie pick at that point or a startup pick. So, I mean, really, there's not much information to go off here. So I'm sorry, but you guys got to be a little bit better than that.
And just because you said that, he put something right after that. He goes, "Here's how the team looks now." So then he's saying right now where he's at, it's got to be a one quarterback league, because he's got Burrow, Dalvin, he's got Alvin Kamara, Robbie Anderson, Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods, Kittle. Looks like a good team. So Salty Peppers, you got to know what your team looks like. If you send us and don't give us a background, sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult. Next one, and this one's going to be a fun one to break down, but Sam Wagman at Swagman95. Love that handle. Nick Chubb in the 310 or Antonio Gibson in a 22-second. Jesse, hit me up here.
First, I want to apologize to people. If you see me leaving, I have a little son, and I'm kind of watching him while I'm doing this a little bit, and he's kind of having a little bit of a rough night. So I'm sorry that I had to leave here and there. I just want to apologize to you and everybody who's listening, and just let them know that's kind of what happened. So Chubb and 310 for Gibson in the second. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I mean, it depends. What was it, a 22-second or was it a
22-second? Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would do with that 22-second is I would use that as a piece to move up in this draft. Try to target a player maybe, or a tier like we were speaking earlier, and try to jump into that tier. I personally really like Gibson a lot. I'm a big fan of Chubb also, but man, that Gibson, man, he's incredible. And I'm pretty okay with doing this. I would obviously maybe like to get a little bit more, but this is the deal, and I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think most people have Chubb slightly above Gibson, pretty similar in ranks. Giving up a 22-second, it might be worth moving into that range. Mung, anything to add to that trade?
Yeah, I mean, I have these two running backs ranked pretty closely. So for me, might as well go down to that younger back. And then we also know that both are kind of in those splits. You've got J.D. McKissick and Kareem Hunt there. So maybe the second ends up fairly early, and I think that's enough for me to, move from Chubb to Gibson, who I don't see as much of a downgrade, if at all.
Yeah, I like that. Next one comes from part of our Smash Accept crew, a guy behind the scenes a little bit, Jason Thomas, at DHH_Skinman. Awesome guy to talk to about trades, and he's always trying to win. So we definitely know which side he has here. 12-team PPR, tight end premium. He gave the 112. Of course, he won the league. And Leonard Fournette for Juju, the 211 and a 22 third. Mung, I mean, you're our Bucks resident here. Fournette's obviously back. We get that 112 in a non-super flex for Juju and the 211.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Again, in non-superplex and one quarterback leagues, the 112, you're not getting a premier player there. I'm not super high on Juju, but I think the target volume is going to be there again. Going back to Pittsburgh on that 1-year deal with Ben Roethlisberger, and then I assume this is before they signed Bernard because Fournette had a lot more value back then. I don't see any of the Bucs running backs producing consistently on a weekly basis, so I do prefer the Juju side here.
And we talk about this a lot, is like we always reference Superflex on the Smash Accept podcast, and that's why we say we want them late firsts and early seconds. But when you're talking one quarterback league, I mean, there are 5 quarterbacks going in the first round of Superflex. So when we talk about one quarterback, I mean, we're looking at, you're obviously taking Harris, you got Etienne, you got Javonte Williams, you got Chase, you got Smith and Waddle, Bateman, and now all of a sudden you get to 108 and you're like, ooh, we got to start pushing some of these guys up without landing spots, and people are going to probably jump in and try to get some of these running backs that get a decent position. So a late first in a one quarterback versus a late first in a super flex, and we're not even talking about the same territory. And if it's a one quarterback league, you can push them all day, see what kind of talent you can get just for that name cachet of it being a first round pick. Speaking of Smash Accept crew, Dynasty Day Trader at FF Day Trader, another guy from our group, fantastic guy, highly knowledgeable, made a trade here. It says, traded Saquon Barkley, Mike Gesicki in the 303 and the 306 and the 310 for the 104? Wait, this can't be right. We're just going to assume he won this trade. But let's talk about Saquon Barkley and rookie picks, Jesse. I mean, Saquon Barkley keeps getting pushed back, and people forget what kind of freak he is on the field. What are you willing to pay for Saquon Barkley?
I mean, yeah, I'm willing to pay pretty much anything for him at this point. 2 first, I'd easily give up, especially with this class. I mean, we talked about this class, and you said it perfectly. The big difference between Superflex and non-Superflex is pretty massive in this class because of it being so QB heavy. And then if you add Superflex into it, with Kyle Pitts being in there, it really pushes that format. But if you're talking about a non-Superflex, dude, you can move those late firsts, pair it with one of these early firsts. And if you can maneuver that into Barkley, man, that's a massive W, in my opinion, anyway. I'm willing to pay 2 firsts in a non-Superflex. In a Superflex, I'm even willing to pay 2 firsts. Definitely. And if they want a little bit of sweetener, man, you can throw him a late second, man. Barkley's an absolute monster, man. I would 100% be willing to move for him. I'm sorry.
I like it. We got a question here from Daniel Reeves. Daniel Reeves says, pumped to listen to tonight's podcast. You guys do a great job. He owns the 104, and this one's a little bit impromptu. So he owns the 104, the 105, and the 107. Would you trade the 105 and the 107 to get 103 and 202, looking to get 2 running backs in this class? So I'm assuming he's talking one quarterback league because he's looking to get 2 running backs in that top range. Are you willing to give up 105 and 107 to move up to get 103 and 202 in this class, Mom?
I think it's about right because I really have to think about this one right now because
Right.
I do have Chase and Harris and Pitts in that top tier for me in one quarterback. But again, like I said, I keep wanting to move Waddle up into that top tier. That's how much I like him. And then depending on where Etienne lands, he could be a solid piece at 105. Yeah, I mean, if you have enough depth where you can cover that move and you want to get a premier asset at 103, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one quarterback, we're looking at 103 and 104. I mean, Harris is going to be gone, so he's got to, potentially looking at double tapping Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne, but we don't know where they're landing yet. So I would hold off on that. I wouldn't jump into that trade just yet, and hit us up. Like always, you can find all of our Twitter handles on here. Hit us up in DM, and we'll break down your whole roster for you. I mean, we love doing that kind of stuff. Next one sent in from Trevor's Ray of Sunshine, T-Law, Sunny B. He trades. You guys are going to love this one. This is a 10-team Superflex. He gave up Joe Burrow, Antonio Gibson in the 202 for Trevor Lawrence, the 105, and the 304. So let's take out the picks, and let's just call this Trevor Lawrence and at 5, let's call that Kyle Pitts, Joe Burrow, and Antonio Gibson, and then Kyle Pitts and Trevor Lawrence. We talked about this before. We've seen what Joe Burrow can do. We don't know about Trevor Lawrence, and I don't want to take anything away from Trevor's ray of sunshine here. But what do you guys think of this?
Yeah, I prefer the Joe Burrow side here, and I wouldn't take out those picks because one of them on the Burrow-Gibson side was the 202, which in a 10-team Superflex is the number 12 pick, and there are a lot of good players left there. You might be able to get a Bateman, Devonta Smith, Waddle, guys like that at the 202 in a 10-team Superflex. So Burrow and Gibson with the 101 and 105 more or less is a wash in value, but I think getting that 202 pushes it to that side.
Yeah, I was taking that out because I felt like that was an overpay, and he still has the 103 and the 106, and he loves Trevor Lawrence. That's his guy. We always advocate, go get your guy, because at the end of the day, it's about having fun. I mean, honestly, if your name is Trevor's ray of sunshine, you go get Trevor Lawrence. You go do that. And I feel like Joe Burrow in the 202 might have got it done, but it's that 101, and know your league mates, because if this is your league mate's team name, he's going after him. So, yeah, the next one, sent from, hold on, cross this out here. Another Smash Accept crew guy. Fantastic. Dave Kluge. We love Dave Kluge. He was on here last week. His trade is not letting me pull it up. We're looking at the 108. Hold on. He got the 108 for Austin Eckler. I can't read this at all. I'm definitely cutting this one out. Anybody know how to read that one? Did he get?
I think he gave up.
Okay, all right. I got it now. I got it. Sorry. All right. So we have the 108, Austin Eckler, Allen Robinson, and Cole Kmet was what he received for the 106, Travis Kelce, and Kenyon Drake in a 2 quarterback, no tight end premium, 3 wide receivers. So he gets Eckler, 108, and Robinson, and Kmet gives up Kelce in the 106. You almost got to write this one down. This is a lot to break down. Jesse, what do you think of this trade?
Another one, just humble bragging here, right? Like, I mean, dude, it clearly dub. I mean, this is a massive one, in my opinion. I mean, Kelce obviously is great, but, you're getting kind of a wash with Robinson and Kmet, for Kelce. I mean, that's a wash right there. And you're getting a huge upgrade from Drake to Eckler. And then you move back 2 picks. I'm pretty okay with moving back from, Harris to Williams, maybe. I mean, I'm very good with this trade. I think he made out very well. In my opinion.
And apparently know your league mate, because then one of his league mates, Len Barson, put in, it helps the team to know that this guy has a boner for Travis Kelce. That's your own personal thing. That might be a little bit excessive. And he also has Josh Jacobs. So Kenyon Drake's the backup there. But Dave definitely won this trade. Want to thank both of you guys. We're right at that hour mark. We got all the trades in. I don't even know how we did it, but we got them all in. We covered it. Guys, we're going to be doing this all off season. We're going to be doing it, once the season rolls around. We have some fantastic guests lined up. I'm excited to say that we've lined up Dynasty Outhouse. We've lined up Matt Waldman. I mean, we have some great guests coming on the next couple of weeks. It's going to be fantastic, the next couple of weeks here. And, a little bit of a interesting surprise towards the end of the month. But, guys, why don't you tell everybody, we'll start with you, Mung, what you have going on. And, your biggest takeaway from this episode is what should we be saying to our listeners right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is that if you're trading one of those early firsts, you better be getting an overpay right now, because basically what you want to do is make sure that you're not going to be able to get more when the pick is on the clock. And I'm talking about, like Allen Robinson and Derrick Henry for like the 101, something like that, where maybe even get a second on top, because that's how much you have to understand the general consensus value is on Trevor Lawrence. But whether it be right or wrong, understand that value. And then, of course, like I said at the beginning, understand your league mates, right? If someone really has a boner for Travis Kelce, then that's who you want to target selling Kelce to. Or, if the guy in your league, his logo is a Miami Dolphins thing, try and sell whoever the Miami Dolphins take at 106 to that player. Just kind of, you guys know your league mates. You guys know who likes to trade up. who likes to trade down, who's targeting running backs, etc. But you guys can always find us on Twitter and ask us more specific questions. I'm at FFA_Mung, MENG, and of course, all my stuff is up at Fantrax. I have the first 2 rounds of the Superflex rookie rankings out. Round 3 will be coming out shortly, and then I got a couple big name sells that you might want to consider moving off from this offseason. That comes out Friday.
Mung, who's the best buy in the second round? Biggest steal?
Ooh, let's see. That's tough. I think it's Dyami Brown. I have him as my rookie wide receiver 6. I've seen him far lower on some other rankings. So he's a guy that I've comped a little bit to Will Fuller. And I think that if he fixes some of those drop issues, then he could have a pretty good rookie season.
Love it. Jesse, thanks again for jumping on. Appreciate all your work. What's the biggest thing that, what do you have going on? What's the biggest thing you took away from this episode?
What I took away from this episode is hedging, right? Like we all love these rookie picks, right? They're flashy and they're nice, but you can also pay a lot less and get similar comp players. Like instead of going all the way up to 103 for maybe Kyle Pitts, see what you can get for TJ Hawkinson, or Noah Fant. These guys are established players that have really high upside, and you don't have to pay nearly as much as you would for Kyle Pitts because he's the flashy new guy. Same thing with Jamar Chase. I mean, dude, if you could move Jamar Chase and you can get, one of your top 12 wide receivers, do it, because you're going to pay less and it's not as sexy. So to say, but I mean, I think that they're great hedges. Like everybody wants Trevor Lawrence, man. Try to get freaking, Burrow, whatever. That's pretty much what I took away out of this. I know we're obviously talking trades and draft picks and, they're awesome to have. But, use them as the assets that they are, like Mung was saying, man. And don't trade them early unless you're winning the trade. If you're, like you said, the 110s, trade those, that's okay, but not the early picks unless they're massive overpays. He definitely smashed, that right in the head. I don't, as far as what I'm doing, I'm probably still working Fantasy Authority. We're going to do the rookie spotlight stuff again. I really enjoyed making those videos. And and my DMs are always open. You can follow me, send me, any trade, whatever, at Dynasty Humble Senior. And I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much. I love jumping on with you boys, man. It really is a pleasure.
Anytime. We love having you on. Biggest takeaway for me is go buy Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Joe Mixon on the cheap. If you do not have the top 4 picks, instead of, having that risk of your running backs potentially not landing where you're at, go get one of these guys on the cheap. You can get them. If you got those 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks, go trade for some of these guys that are a little bit more, we've seen what they have. We know what they can do. So thanks again for tuning in and enjoy the process.